Ukraine's top general, Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, has claimed to have destroyed Russia's most combat-capable units in Bakhmut. The top general added that despite all the forecasts, Kiev continues to hold Bakhmut and is preparing for further action. Earlier, Syrsky had said that amid fierce battles, the Ukrainian units had ousted Russian forces from integral positions in Bakhmut. On the other hand, Russia's Wagner group insisted that despite the loss of 86 fighters, Russian units have incrementally advanced in Bakhmut. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, has raised Asia's economic forecast amid signs of a revival in China. Economic growth for Asia has been pegged at 4.6%, but the International Monetary Body warned of risks from persistent inflation and global market volatility driven by Western banking sector woes. The reopening of China's economy will be pivotal for the region, with the spillover to Asia focused on consumption and service sector demand rather than investment. According to IMF Director for Asia Pacific Department, China and India will be key drivers with an expansion of 5.2% and 5.9% respectively. Growth in the rest of Asia is also expected to bottom out this year. Australia has banned recreational vaping and further tightened e-cigarette laws. This is the biggest crackdown on the tobacco industry in more than a decade as the country focuses on curbing an alarming rise in teenage vaping. Vaping was alternatively seen as a safer alternative to smoking cigarettes and was supposed to help smokers quit smoking. Australia has one of the toughest anti-smoking laws in the world. The federal budget, which is due to be out the next week, will include $234 million for measures to protect against the harm caused by tobacco and vaping. Geoffrey Hinton, also dubbed as the godfather of AI for his pioneering work in the field, has left his decade-long employer Google. He said that he took this decision so he could voice his concern about the dangers of AI without a conflict of interest with Google. May Day demonstrations in Paris turned violent and several police officers were smothered in flames after they were hit with petrol bombs. At least 108 police personnel have been wounded in total, with 291 people detained across France. Protesters also hurled fireworks and other projectiles during the clashes. Outside Paris, violence erupted in Lyon and Nantes, where some vehicles were set ablaze and business premises were thrashed. Russia says it has evacuated more than 200 of its nationals from conflict-hit Sudan. According to the country's defense ministry, employees of diplomatic missions, their family members, servicemen and other Russian citizens were among the evacuees. 4 Russian military aircraft have been involved in the evacuation process. It's been over 2 weeks since the conflict in Sudan started, with several nations evacuating their citizens and violence in the country. Under Operation Kaveri, as many as 231 Indians, including 208 Gujarat residents, have reached India from strife-torn Sudan. The rescued citizens were welcomed at the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport upon their arrival from Jeddah. Nearly 3,000 Indians have now been evacuated from the conflict-torn nation. For the first time in 7 years, Japan and South Korea are holding their first bilateral meeting of finance ministers. The meeting reiterates thawing relations between the nations as they face common challenges like geopolitical tensions and slowing economic growth. The meeting will be attended by Japan and South Korea's respective finance ministers. It comes ahead of Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's planned visit to South Korea next week. China's box office earnings crossed 140 million US dollars on the third day of the Labor Day holiday. Domestic movie Born to Fly topped the box office charts. The Labor Day holiday extends from 29th of April to 3rd of May. Plenty of movies are scheduled to be screened with genres ranging from action, comedy and crime to suspense, romance and animation. Heightened travel activity during the extended May Day weekend is also expected to hold big positives for the economy. Indonesia's Finance Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati has emphasized robustness of economic growth in the ASEAN region, saying it continues to be an important component for global economic growth. Sri Mulyani added that the ASEAN nations must remain vigilant regarding inflationary pressures, energy and food insecurity and geopolitical fragmentation while building strong buffers against shocks. Senior politician from the Indian state of Maharashtra, Sharad Pawar, dropped a bombshell as he announced his resignation as chief of the Nationalist Congress Party. The four-time Maharashtra chief minister made the surprise announcement with nephew Ajit Pawar by his side. His decision was met with protests by NCP workers and leaders, many of whom could be seen in tears. Mr. Pawar also announced a panel of senior party leaders to plan the way forward. Satinderjeet Singh Goldie Brar, the main accused in Indian rapper Sidhu Moosewala's murder, has been declared as one of Canada's 25 most wanted fugitives. Brar is accused of murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder and weapons trafficking in Canada. He is also the subject of a Royal Canadian Mounted Police investigation into the allegations. After an 87-day-long hunger strike, Palestinian hunger striker Khader Adnan has died in custody while in an Israeli prison. Adnan was affiliated with the Palestinian militant Islamic Jihad group. 45-year-old Adnan, who was originally from Jenin, was a known Islamic Jihad figure in the West Bank, captured by Israel in the 1967 war. Reportedly, the Islamic Jihad opposed peace deals between the Palestinians and Israel and advocated Israel's destruction. He went on at least 5 hunger strikes during his various stints in detention since 2004. A protest march was carried out in Jenin, hailing Adnan as a hero. Santiago Peña of Paraguay's ruling conservative Colorado Party has won the presidential election, but supporters of opposition leader Paraguayo Cubas are not happy. Protests are being held over alleged electoral fraud. Cubas was a candidate for the National Crusade Party in Paraguay's presidential election on April 30th. Economist and former finance minister Santiago Peña, 44, won the election with more than 42% of the votes to continue rule of conservative Colorado Party. A dust storm in Illinois resulted in 6 people's deaths and 30 others being injured after it caused multiple car crashes and a major pileup on an interstate highway. The crashes involved 40 to 60 cars and multiple tractor trailers, 2 of which caught fire. The director of emergency services in the county said that this was a very difficult scene which was very hard to train for. Authorities set up staging areas away from the crash site to help travelers reunite with families and friends. Conservation groups in US have sued the Federal Aviation Administration, challenging its approval of Elon Musk's SpaceX rocket launches next to a national wildlife refuge in South Texas without a greater environmental study. The lawsuit comes 11 days after SpaceX attempted to send its next-generation Starship rocket on its first test flight, ending with the vehicle exploding over the Gulf of Mexico after blasting the launch pad to ruins on liftoff. The force of the liftoff hurled chunks of reinforced concrete and metal shrapnel thousands of feet from the site adjacent to the lower Rio Grande Valley National Wildlife Refuge. Special coronation vestments, some of which have not been worn in 70 years since the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, are being prepared to be used during the crowning of King Charles on May 6. Two significant historic garments, in particular known as the super tunica and imperial mantle, will take center stage during the ceremony. The super tunica, for one, is a long gold silk coat trimmed with gold lace. It was originally made for King George V's coronation in 1911. The imperial mantle, which is the second, was made for King George IV in 1821 and was worn at the coronations of King George V, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth II.